Um, we're recording. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for coming through this late in the evening. I know that this is very inconvenient, but we're here tonight. We have, we, we have Bradley Morgan and Jenny Jiao, who are both D3s at the University of California, San Francisco, an amazing school all the way on the West Coast. So they are in the Pacific time zone. We're over here on the East time zone. But they've come to share about uh, ab- about what it's like to be a dental student at UCSF and hopefully answer a bunch of questions as well. But I'll give them the floor from this moment and yeah, guys, take it away.
Hi, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex, for the introduction. Jenny and I are going to talk at the same time, probably. Sorry for keeping you up so late. I know it's late over there, so we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we're going to give our normal short, like 20-ish minute presentation, and then we'll leave the rest of the time for questions that you all have. We want it to be really interactive. We work for Office of Admissions, the two of us, but we're not, directly involved in any of the decision-making process. We're not like taking down your names and writing comments about you or anything. This is like off the record, very casual. We want it to be a comfortable environment, and we want people to kind of feel comfortable, answering and asking any questions that you have. So feel free to do that. Again, my name is Bradley, and my friend Jenny here, we both work for Office of Admissions and Outreach. We're currently third-year dental students.
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction, Bradley. So let's get started. So UCSF, when you guys apply to dental schools, it's always good to know the mission statement of each school. So like, what is their objective? Why do they exist? What are their goals as an institution? Is to advance patient care through our clinical work, our research, and our education. And so we'll kind of dive into how each of those work out. So our dental school at UCSF is just one part of the School of Dentistry. Our dental school actually has the predoctoral component, which is the DDS, which is what Bradley and I are in right now. And we have the postgraduate dental clinics also located on campus. So if you're interested in specializing or you want to learn from residents that are currently pursuing specialties, it's a really good place to be because you pretty much get a front row seat to learning all of those different parts of dentistry. And then we have didactic courses located throughout the Parnassus campus. Parnassus is in the inner sunset of San Francisco. And then we also have over 15 externship sites located throughout the Bay Area and Northern California. And then we're going to touch on externships in a following slide.
Okay, so do you want me to go or do you want to go? Sorry.
I can do the next couple of slides, yeah. So okay, another part of our mission statement is our emphasis on our education. So like we just briefly talked about, our school has the DDS program, and what's been getting more popular is actually our dual degree programs. So we have the DDS PhD if you want to be like a forever learner and go to school for 8 years minimum, you can do a DDS PhD program. UCSF is one of the highest NIH funded dental schools in the United States, if not #1. So it's a really good place to pursue research. And then this one has been getting more popular in the recent years, the DDS MBA program. So that gives you a master's in business administration. That's good if you ultimately want to be a business owner, you want to own multiple practices. Dental school, unfortunately, doesn't really teach you a lot about the business side of the profession. So as a result, people grow increasingly interested in that program. And then finally, we have 11 specialty programs offered here. I'm not going to read it off to you guys, but you can take a look. And if you're interested in any of them, it's just a nice place to be and explore. And then finally, we're really passionate about our discovery and contributing to the innovations of dentistry. And we do that on a student level and a graduate level. So most notably, we have the Student Summer Research Fellowship Program. If you can take a look at the pictures. So this is a 10-week program in between the first and second year of dental school. One unique thing about UCSF is that we get 3 months off between the first and second year of school. So it's like a whole summer, kind of like you had in college and in high school. And you can choose to spend that time however you want. About a third of our class, and typically every year, participates in this research fellowship. So it's a 10-week long program. You get paid $5,000 to help you pay for rent in the city. and then you work with a mentor at UCSF, and you can pick any of these research topics or even create your own project, and you work on it throughout the 10 weeks. And at the end of the 10 weeks, you present your findings at Research and Clinical Excellence Day, which is kind of like our school's biggest event. It's where all of the classes and clinics get canceled for a day. And we're able to just kind of gather together and learn about everyone's research projects. Bradley, do you want to take these student schedule slides?
Yep, I got it. So we've kind of presented you all with, sorry, my mom. Okay, so we've kind of presented you with what the typical day in the life looks like for students. So you can see the D1 schedule for your first year, the D2 schedule for the second year. You can see the first year, that blue class is our SimLab class basically. So you're learning crumb preps right away, fillings, waxing teeth, doing all this stuff in your first year. Then second year, you move on to all the different specialties. So you learn about dentures, root canals, just a lot of more complicated procedures. But you can see that about half of your week, first and second years, is devoted to SimLab. And then all these colors are so similar, but the kind of orange, beigey one, I don't know, the BMS is our biomedical sciences. So that's our didactic science classes, basically. So you are retaking things like anatomy and physiology, microbiome, biochem, classes like that. So if you've taken a lot of these courses in undergrad, it's like a good refresher and kind of builds on that knowledge. And then you can see the green class is our PCC class. That's our patient-centered care. So that is the time that you spend in clinic. Your first year, it's about one session every other week. So right away when you get to school here, you start working in clinic with your classmates, kind of learning the different procedures and practicing on each other, things like setting up cubicles, taking medical history, hand hygiene, oral hygiene instruction, some of the more basic things. And then once you reach your second year, you spend a lot more time in clinic. You start doing actual patient procedures like, injections, cleanings on each other, learning nitrous oxide, things like that. So your clinic exposure, you kind of get very early on at UCSF. That kind of peachy pink color is our public health class, basically scientific methods. You're learning about things like social determinants of health, health disparities, more like epidemiology focus things. And then the yellow class is our dental sciences class. This is learning about like tooth formation and development, and then how cavities form basically. And then finally, what's special that we like to highlight at UCSF is that light green color is our ISO time. It stands for Independent Study Option. So every single week, they're giving you one or two sessions that you have kind of to your own volition that you can study if you want to, go to the library, go to the gym, go for a run, do your laundry, nap, like really whatever you want to do. The school carves out this free time for you to take care of yourself, both physically and mentally. So I remember it being really nice, kind of having built-in study time into the schedule so that you can kind of get all your schoolwork done during the day. And then when you go home, you don't have to feel like a dental student 24/7. You can go home and relax and kind of see the city and enjoy more of what SF has to offer. So again, it's really SimLab and didactic focused in the first 2 years. It's more of a traditional schedule that you see. But again, that patient exposure is started right away during your first week of school, basically, and kind of ramps up through the second year. And then finally, you'll see in the third and fourth year, basically your entire week is either you being in clinic, you having that independent study option once a week, you being on rotation or externship, and then we have one didactic class on Fridays, either Friday afternoon or Friday morning. And in this sense, you're learning more about the different specialties, more like clinical topics in dentistry that apply to the patients that you're seeing every day. So Jenny and I are both third years right now. We made it through the first 2 years of dental school, arguably the harder years. And honestly, our clinical exposure is going really well. I think that UCSF provides a lot of really great clinical experience. I've had a lot of great cases to work on and everything. And you can see basically our last 2 years are entirely in clinic and doing other clinic adjacent activities. And then finally, we are a pass no pass program we always want to mention. So Basically, any of your assessments, both in clinic or in your didactic work or SimLab, you need about a 70% to pass any assessment. If you clear 70%, then you pass. You don't get exact grades that go on your transcript. You don't get a GPA. You don't get class rank, anything like that. So this makes our environment so much more collaborative, a lot less competitive. We work together. We're less stressed out, to be honest. And like really, I couldn't imagine being at a school that wasn't pass, no pass. So we just always want to emphasize that because that really is a highlight of a school being pass, no pass during 4 of arguably the most stressful years of your life.
Great. So Bradley did a really wonderful job kind of giving you a snapshot to what each year of dental school looks like. And while that will take up a huge part of your dental school experience, one thing that's unique about UCSF is how involved our students are in student life and in our student clubs. So our school is really passionate about doing community service, doing outreach, promoting better oral health for the community. And so we have a bunch of campus organizations that pre-COVID, we would basically be in the Bay Area every weekend doing like oral screenings, fluoride varnishes, oral health education for kids. Aside from all of our community service clubs, we also have 3 dental fraternities. So these fraternities are different than college fraternities. They're more business and support based. And they're nice. Almost every single person in each class of 90, which is now going to be 60, joins a fraternity. And then we also have specialty interest groups. Like we said, UCSF is a great place to learn if you want to specialize or not. And then probably one of the more interesting is our cultural dental groups. So UCSF really likes to emphasize diversity and inclusion. And it's always really cool to learn about different people's cultural traditions and their heritage through these events that they put on with their clubs. And then more on student life, like we said, there's just so many community outreach events that we do throughout the year. It's looking like COVID is coming down in California. More vaccinations are being distributed. So hopefully in the near future, we can get back out there and do that. And more on student life is basically San Francisco is like the coolest place to be because Thank you. The city itself is really fun and exciting, and you're in like a perfect proximity to anything else you might desire. And so we're really close to Lake Tahoe if you like to go skiing and snowboarding. We're really close to some really nice beaches. Northern California has some of the most beautiful hikes and waterfalls that I've ever seen. And so one way that students make use of that is through our UCSF Recreational Pass. It's an annual pass that pretty much organizes outdoor trips for you and provides all of the equipment and the food if you're going on an overnight trip. So it's a really cool way to meet other UCSF students and then also spend time with your friends in a way where you don't really feel stressed about planning events. Bradley, do you want to talk about admissions timeline?
Yeah, so this is obviously a little complicated. We had updated the timeline last year because of COVID. So all of our deadlines kind of changed and pushed back to what you see here. We're not exactly sure how it's going to go this year, but the best place that you can go for this information, the most up to date, is going to be our website. We post all of the decisions for updated dates and timelines as soon as those decisions are made. So it would just, behoove you to look at our website once you get closer to the application cycle in a couple months, just to know the exact deadlines that you're working with. But in general, early summer, it's time for you to submit your applications, get all your letters in, get your DAT taken if you haven't already, and make sure that you've taken it early enough. This year, we required it by October 15th, but really the advice that we want to give everyone is that earlier applications are always better. So if you're able to apply with the same application in July versus October, you're going to have much, much, much better chances pretty much at any school of getting an interview and getting in earlier on in the cycle than you will later on. So we know that, of course, that there are extenuating circumstances, and it's up to you to decide what's best for your application. But in general, we like to see applications completed around August, September, because we start offering interview invites already the first week in August. So the later you're submitting your application, the less of a chance you're having basically of even getting an interview. So that's just one piece of advice that we like to give just from the student perspective. And then this year, the application deadline was November 16th. It'll be between November 1st and 16th probably again this year. And then typically they offer interview, or they offer admission around December 1st. This year is December 15th. But like always, our admissions process is rolling. So we try to fill about 3/4 of our class on December 1st or 15th right away. And then we hold two interview dates, 2 or 3 dates left in January to fill the remainder of our class and also to get people off the wait list. So, there is still a chance of you getting in at that time, but most of our class is full. And again, we're limiting our class size down to 60 this year from 90. So unfortunately for you all, if you're applying this year, it's going to be a little more competitive than it's probably ever been before. But in general, if you're getting your application in by about August, September, you're fighting for the better, earlier interview dates, giving you the best chance of getting in. So we just want to emphasize again, getting your app in early, getting all of your letters and your DAT and everything. Start thinking about doing that now and getting your personal statement reviewed, everything that you possibly can, so that you set yourself up for success in the early summer.
Great.
I got it. So we use a holistic application review at UCSF. So we no longer have DAT or GPA minimums. We welcome anyone from any background, any academic experiences, et cetera, to apply. However, our averages still tend to be pretty high. Our GPAs are typically over 3.5, closer to 3.6 with this last cycle. And then our DAT scores average are usually a little above 22. So again, it is competitive, but that range is pretty wide, which we'll see on the next slide. It goes down from like 17 on the DAT all the way up to like 28. So it's a pretty big range, and down to like 2.8 GPA depending. So more so than just the grades, we're looking a lot more for different skills outside of academic, talent and rigor that kind of hint that you're going to be a good dental professional. Having experience with the profession, getting exposure through shadowing or other things. We don't have a shadowing requirement. It's just a recommendation. So especially this cycle, if you're worried about shadowing and getting that experience in, you don't have to worry with UCSF. We like seeing those experiences, but don't freak yourself out if you don't have a certain number for us. Having, professional qualities like integrity and maturity, critical thinking, leadership, I'd say is a huge one, showing what activities and extracurriculars you've been involved with during your undergraduate experience at FIU. And then just showing like what your passions are and being able to articulate that both in your personal statement and then also in your IDEA AdSAS application. And then just like being able to tell on either a personal statement or in an interview, why dentistry? They're going to ask you this everywhere you go. You're going to have to answer this in your personal statement. And just having a really well thought out kind of vision and articulation of what it is that makes you like dentistry so much, the types of populations that you want to serve, the type of change that you might want to make in the profession. Just having a really well thought out and polished answer for that will kind of string all of your application materials together and kind of create a really strong image of you as a candidate. And just knowing, what's going on in dentistry, knowing the current issues and being able to talk and discuss those things. So those are the best advice we have when applying basically. And then on the next slide, you see kind of what our typical class looks like. So we typically have more women than men. That's been the trend for a while now. It's typically about 2/3 California residents, but we don't consider residency in your application. So we don't have like a minimum, slots that we hold for residents versus non-residents. It's actually completely blinded in that sense. It just so happens that the people that we offer admissions to, more in-state students tend to accept us, which kind of skews that number just because they want to stay closer to home. You can see the didactic and DAT ranges there. You can see that the lower end is pretty low, so if it's up to you to kind of assess where you are within that range. If there are other parts of your application or you know, if you have a really strong story that kind of explains the different aspects of what was going on with you during the different parts of your academic career, definitely gauge yourself within this. Think about, you know, the pros and cons of your application, and if you think it's worth, you know, submitting an application. I never thought I would get into UCSF when I applied. I didn't even think I was going to get an interview, and then ended up getting in. And I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm also out of state. Happy to answer any out of state questions if you have them. And then finally, you can see our ethnicity breakdowns. The class is about half Asian typically, and then the rest of the mix is typically white, Black, Filipino, and Hispanic. And I can just go over costs really quickly. We're not going to deep dive into this. Everything's on our website, but basically as an out-of-state student, as many of you probably will be, that first year, the non-resident supplemental tuition extra amount that you're paying for not being a California resident is $12,000 that you can see there. But the nice thing about UCSF is that if you get your driver's license in California, if you register to vote, and if you file your taxes in the state of California, even just for a partial year, then you are eligible to get in-state tuition and residency status. So then the remaining 3 years, you're basically treated as a resident, which saves almost $40,000 in the long run. So that's something that I've taken advantage of that makes UCSF, when I was applying, one of the cheapest schools that I actually applied to. And it was even cheaper than my state school of Marquette, where I had applied in Wisconsin as well. So our students, you know, you can see the average amount borrowed, which is about 183,000, much lower than the national average. We have a ton of students on health professions scholarships, military scholarships, which Jenny can talk about, and a lot of other funding options that make UCSF a really affordable option. The bulk of it comes from cost of living, as you can see, but the first 2 years, it's calculating a 9-month cost of living. The second 2 years, it's 12-month. That's why you see those differences in numbers. But again, that's based on the average of rents. And I think they estimate about $1,600 for rent in the student budget. A lot of us are paying less than that. I know I'm currently paying $710. I live in one of the dental fraternity houses on campus. 2 of them have housing, which is nice. It's very discounted. Students tend to pay about $1,200 to $1,400 for rooms, I'd say is pretty average. So you can kind of compare that to Florida. I don't know how expensive it is where you are, but I'm assuming that's probably a little more expensive than where you're at. But we also have different scholarships that you can apply for. There's a cost of living supplement that the school gives you if you live off campus. You can apply for $200 a month off of your off-campus rent, which is really nice. So it really takes down the cost of everything and makes, you know, living in San Francisco and the Bay Area much more affordable.
Great. And so I'll talk a little bit about financial resources. So like Bradley said, UCSF is a really affordable school, and the biggest chunk of cost that tends to give people any kind of worry is the cost of living in San Francisco. But we have a lot of financial resources. So we have merit and need-based scholarships offered. And I think in our class, almost everyone was offered some kind of scholarship, however big or small, when starting school, which was really nice. We also have something called the Student Food Market, which is one of my favorite things. I like weirdly look forward to it every Thursday afternoon. But essentially, we partner with the Marin County Food Bank locally, and they are able to provide UCSF students with fresh produce and grains and basically like your grocery essentials. And it kind of helps to offset the cost of your groceries every week. And then talking about groceries, we also have the CalFresh program, which is essentially like California EBT food stamps. And dental students qualify because we're not currently working, and so we meet the requirement of a low income. And it's really nice. People get like $200 for groceries every month. I see my classmates like going to Whole Foods and buying a lobster for dinner, which is very nice. Other resources at UCSF is our shuttle system. So throughout your dental school experience, you might have a rotation at a different hospital or a different site, and the UCSF shuttle gets you from point A to B and connects all of the UCSF campuses. We also have a partnership with Lyft where after 11 p.m., Lyft covers the first $10 of your ride from a UCSF campus to home or anywhere else you want to go, which is really nice. And then lastly, we have the, or not we, this is open to really any graduate school, the Military Health Professions Scholarship Program, and then also the National Health Service Corps. Both of them are full ride scholarships, and they also offer stipends of over $2,000 a month. And they pay for all 4 years of dental school. And in return, you are asked to either serve as an officer in one of the 3 military branches as a dentist. So you'd be providing dental care to Army men or women, Air Force, and also Navy. Or you can work in the National Health Service Corps, and that's where you provide dental care to low income and high dental need communities. And so if you guys are interested, this is also a really famous event at UCSF. It's called Inside UCSF 2021. I think the application, Bradley, I don't remember if it's already been due.
I do not know either. I'm sorry.
Okay. Wait, let me, do you want to do the slide real quick and then I'm going to talk
I'll
about
talk about it. You go look it up.
Yeah.
So basically this year it's virtual, which is great. Not yet open. Okay. Thank you, Erica. So basically it's a virtual event. Normally we host students at the school, but now I guess it's more convenient for you all if you live far away. But it essentially, we're hosting different programs and meetings with students, application review, things like that. So it's kind of preparing students to apply to UCSF, giving them an idea of what it's like to be a student at our school. And the event is hosted by actually all of the different health professions as well. So they have it for, medicine, nursing, pharmacy, physical therapy, dentistry, and it's geared at especially underrepresented minority students in dentistry, or in healthcare.
On the 22nd.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah.
Closes on the 22nd, you said?
Oh, it already closed on
It
February.
closed. Okay. So I'm sorry, everyone. It's too late, but if you applied, congratulations. I hope you get it, but you can consider this for the following year. I'm sure it will probably be virtual again. And if you do identify as an underrepresented minority student, especially, we encourage you to apply. And on that note, we also have, is this the next slide, Jenny, our post-bac? I think it's on here.
Oh, I'll go back.
Okay, so we also have our post-bac program. So I don't know if you all have heard of post-bac before. I didn't know what it was until I came to dental school. But essentially, if you're kind of stuck, maybe you've already applied to dental school or are wanting to apply, but not sure if your application is competitive enough yet. One really great way to spend a gap year is doing a post-bac program. So UCSF has our own post-bac as well that's very kind of dental oriented. And it's a year-long program. It basically covers the school year, and you're retaking some of the harder upper-level science classes. You're getting DAT study help. They're reviewing your application, your personal statement, things like that. You're paired with a mentor. It's just a really great intensive program to kind of prepare you to apply to dental school again. And then the nice thing about our post-bac program is that if you get a 3.5 or greater in our program, then you're guaranteed an automatic interview with UCSF. So it's especially great if you're really set on UCSF, you know that UCSF's your school, you want to come here. This is one way to kind of get your foot in the door and also to meet mentors and get letters of recommendation through that. But in general, if you have post-bacs closer to home, there are also a ton kind of in the Bay Area that offer different, preparation and application boosters for the time when you would actually apply to dental school. So this application always opens after our dental school application closes to kind of give people a chance to, apply for both if you're interested, or to figure out what you want to do for a gap year if you maybe didn't get in. So feel free to look up more information about our post-bac. Really great option, especially if you want to come to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, we just want to give you guys some contact information. So if you ever have questions about the admissions process specifically, like you're wondering if this class satisfies a UCSF requirement, you can email that question to admissions@dentistry.ucsf.edu. And then we try and stay really up to date on our social media. So if you want to look out for future virtual events we have with current dental students, check out our Facebook and Instagram. And then one more resource that I'd like to share is a blog that I helped write with one of our ortho residents at UCSF. It's called the Pre-Dental Guide. It really goes into detail, like every single step of the dental school application process. So you could just type in Google the predentalguide.com. And we always get questions on help with like your secondary applications or how to ask for letters of recommendation. And so we put out this blog to kind of provide like a timeless resource for all pre-dental students. So feel free to check that out. We try and post monthly a different tip for you all to be really, really competitive dental school applicants. And then that's all the information we have for you all tonight. Do y'all have any questions?
Yeah, Jenny, do you want to stop sharing and we can go to gallery mode and just kind of hang out? Sorry, I know it's late and we went like 10 minutes over, but we're happy to answer any questions. Again, we're not like evaluating any of this, so don't feel like we're like writing things down once you say them. This is kind of a open, free space to ask any questions that you might have.
I guess I'll go first. Firstly, yeah, I want to say thank you because this was amazing. This presentation definitely super informative about, uh, definitely me in particular. I'm pretty alien to life on the West Coast, so definitely it shed some light on what's like over there. Definitely my question is you know, so you said that out-of-state students aren't treated any differently to in-state students, right? So does that mean that when you apply, the admissions department like they don't see that we're out of state, or how does that work? Because obviously they'll see our transcripts, right?
Yeah, so they can see on your application,
Mhm.
like they can see the state that you're applying from just because you put it in India access. But it's
Yeah.
similar to private schools that whatever state is listed isn't considered as part of your application, basically. So you can talk about it. It doesn't really make a difference for applying. Whereas
Yeah.
for other public schools, since they get more state funding, they're usually required to serve a majority of in-state students. But UCSF gets most of our funding actually from the federal government. We get a lot of research funding that comes in. So the state doesn't support UCSF that much actually in terms of our funding. It's just a kind of legality, but that allows us to open our school to basically whoever wants to come here.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
What would you say is your favorite part about going to UCSF? Personal.
It's the pass no pass. For sure. It's just the nicest thing. Like when you're in college, you're freaking out about every single grade and you're telling yourself like you can't get anything lower than like an A or B or whatever. Your chances of getting into dental school are like ruined if we were to be so dramatic. And just to tell you guys, that's not true. And I just didn't want to feel like I was always like so laser focused on every single class because in dental school, I know you're asking Paula, like, what's your favorite thing, but I'll also tell you, like, what's the hardest thing? The hardest thing is just learning time management and learning how to read. Like, you're going to take all these classes again, which is kind of nice because you've done them in college. Like, you're going to redo anatomy and physiology and everything. But while you're doing that, you're also learning how to do dentistry for the first time in sim lab, and you're learning how to assist the upperclassmen in the clinic. And those things are really stressful because they require like critical thinking on the spot. And it just ends up being a lot to manage at one time. So if you guys can practice how to like make tasks for the day or have good time management, and then also how to set boundaries for yourself, like don't sell your soul just to be in dental school. I think it's really important to have balance and have a time just to yourself to do the things that you enjoy, if it's after school, if you're not studying, or if it's on the weekends, or it's with your friends and family. I think that perspective makes all of dental school much better.
Yeah, I would say, I guess when I was looking at schools, I wanted schools that were going to provide a lot of opportunities outside of just like making you a good clinician. I wanted schools that had research opportunities, public health focus, a lot of community service events going on. different outreach with the communities. I was more interested in, the student life and other things outside of just classwork and clinic work, basically. And I was actually really surprised by how well I think UCSF offers clinical experiences. Because I know a lot of people know UCSF more for, the big research institution. And just being really competitive and strong in classwork. But I think clinically and just with public health and community service, UCSF also has just a really strong mission in caring for underserved populations. Obviously, being in the Bay Area too, we have a houselessness crisis. There's a lot of people that have been hit really hard by the pandemic. And so it's nice to be in a place where we're able to serve and help a lot of different people in need. And we're a huge Medicaid provider for the Bay Area, and just constantly seeing a really diverse population pool. If any of you speak other languages, I'd say a good percentage of our patients are Spanish speaking or Mandarin or Canto speaking. So those languages certainly come very much in handy in clinic, but we have patients literally that speak every single language that come through our clinic. And there's usually one or two students who speak that language that can get assigned to them. And it's just really amazing to see just the kind of diversity of talents and skills that we have in the clinic that are able to provide better care to patients, basically. So I think in general, it's just a really well-rounded experience. And UCSF is one of those schools I think that has become good at a lot of different things. I'm bragging about my school. It doesn't even affect me, but I think it's really awesome to just be in the middle of all of that, I think. And there are other schools definitely, I think, who can offer those types of experiences, but I've been extremely happy with what UCSF has kind of offered us so far.
Same.
Awesome, thank you.
Are you guys reducing? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Fanny. It's okay.
Thank you. Are you guys reducing your class size due to COVID, or is it just like random?
Yeah, so they made the decision to cut the class size for kind of a lot of different reasons, but they centered around wanting to give students more experiences basically in school. So having smaller class sizes, having more one-on-one attention with faculty, and then the patient population that we have was kind of hit by COVID. So they want to distribute the same number of patients across fewer providers, basically, so that everyone can have more patients and more patient experiences, basically. So there were a lot of things that went into it, but that's kind of the gist is getting our students more personalized attention. So it's going to be the same number of faculty, same number of patients, staff, all of that stuff, just spread out among fewer students. So in the end, the students are kind of going to benefit from that. So I'm sure COVID probably prompted some of it, but dental schools nationally are facing kind of an affordability crisis right now, and UCSF really is trying not to relay that burden onto students by raising tuition. So our tuition's been very stable since we got here, which I've appreciated, because I know at some schools it goes up a lot every year. So just a lot of different factors that went into it, but that's the gist of it, I think.
Thank you.
I have a question. Does the school schedule patients for you to see, or are you as students responsible for finding your own patients?
Yeah, Erica, that's a really good question. So one of the cool things about being in San Francisco is that we have such a diverse patient population, and we have plenty of people in the Bay Area that require dental care. And so when you enter clinic, you actually get transferred all of the patients from like a third year and existing fourth year. And so that's a nice way to keep the patients, like have them have regular visits every single year. And on top of that, we always have our emergency, like our ER chairs open. So when patients have like a tooth abscess or a broken tooth or just some kind of pain and infection, they can be seen at our clinic. And then usually the student that sees them in that emergency visit ends up becoming their provider. And then finally, we have this thing called new patient visits, where we have days where patients basically just like get screened throughout our campus, and then we can decide with our faculty, is this patient suitable for treatment in pre-doc clinic? Should they be referred to like the general dentistry residency program? Should they be referred to the prosthodontics program? And if we decide that it's within the scope of the pre-dental umbrella, or like the basically our skill set, then we can keep them. So we don't have to go like handing out business cards within the city to get patients. There are plenty of patients that come into the system. But once you have your patients, it's like your own responsibility to schedule them, because you get certain chairs on certain days and you have to coordinate with them.
Thank you, Jenny.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I know it's like almost 10 o'clock, so we don't want to keep you, but if you guys have questions, we're more than happy to answer them.
I wanted to ask, how is the relationship like amongst students at UCSF?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned with the pass no pass thing, but our class is really collaborative and not like a cutthroat competitive environment that I've seen at a lot of other schools, especially with schools that have class rank. And it seems like a dog eat dog world at some of these places, I'm telling you. But UCSF, especially the first 2 years when it's really heavy didactic work, everyone is sharing study guides with each other. We're studying in groups. Um, Upperclassmen in the different fraternities, or your buddies in the upper years, really help students with their clinical work, with their classwork, really helping everyone to succeed. So it's been really nice to kind of have that collaborative environment. We had multiple days pre-COVID where the whole class would get together and we'd go out to the park for a social, or out to the bars, or wherever it might be. Everything is virtual now with COVID, but we used to have a lot of fun going out to the different green spaces in the city, or going out in the wilderness, wherever. So the class is very close. It's a little more kind of isolated now with COVID, I think, just naturally because the Bay Area is also fairly locked down, especially compared to other places, and probably compared to Florida right now. But in general, the class, I think, is very friendly. And I think that was one of the big draws. Like when I was interviewing and screening different schools, I was like, I wanted to know what schools were students, the most friendly with each other. And, you make your best friends in dental school and you live together and you complain about school together and have a great time for 4 years and make lifelong friends. So that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why I chose UCSF. The people here seemed like fun and like not super, I don't mean this negatively, but not super like nerdy and unsocial. Like they seem very fun and willing to go out and do stuff. And that was very attractive for me.
Yeah, I think dental school is like the hardest I've ever worked in my life, but also the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I think the way that that environment comes to fruition is by having really, really chill people that are also like pretty interested and motivated in learning dentistry, and also just like hanging out and chilling and having a good time.
Got it. Thank you.
I had one. I did have one more question. How long are your breaks in between your semesters? Like, do you get good bit of Christmas maybe?
Yeah, that's a really good question, especially for like out-of-state students that want to go home and see their families and friends. So like we said, between the first and second year of dental school, you had a 3-month break. That's huge. And also you don't start your first year of dental school until September. So I know some dental schools, they start in like July or August and stuff. And then after that, we always get, I think it's usually like the Wednesday and then the rest of the week, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for Thanksgiving break. And then we get winter break for 2 weeks, so Christmas week and New Year's. And then we get spring break. Our spring break is actually coming up at the end of March, which is 1 week. And then we get all the 3-day holidays. And then we get, once you finish your first and second year of dental school, I believe summer break is just like 1 or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we start like end of September, your D1 year. Like I was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to start now. It's like, I think this year they started in October, actually. It depends on the schedule, but just because we're on the quarter system, that's when it falls. So you get 1 or 2 weeks between all the quarters. And like Jenny said, since we're a public institution, we get all the federal holidays off and state holidays. I've like learned all these new holidays that I did not know existed, but we have like 3-day weekends kind of a lot that I was like, okay, sounds fake, but it's been kind of like fun to have that time off, I guess. And being out of state, like it really depends on flight prices, but I had a ticket booked for Thanksgiving this year. I canceled it just because of COVID, but it's very feasible to be able to go home for Thanksgiving. But if you can't, a lot of us out of state people actually stayed in the Bay Area the first 2 years and had like a Friendsgiving. So you're not alone if you don't want to go home. It's totally understandable. But then pretty much everyone gets a chance to go home over that winter break. And then summer break, like Jenny said, a lot of people do research that first summer. So you can get paid to do research, your own project. If you don't want to do research, you can literally just do whatever you want. So I don't know any other school that has more breaks than us. I feel like we get kind of babied sometimes with how much time we have off, but yeah.
And we definitely take advantage of it.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, any last questions? All right, if not, you guys have our contact information. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at our email address or through our social media. We're going to be putting out more events closer to the application submission opening or grand opening. So if you guys are preparing to apply for dental school this year, we would be more than happy to support you in that process.
And we also just wanted to advertise. So if you follow us on our Instagram, we're doing like a US tour right now of outreach. So we're doing like giveaways every month, and Florida is actually the month of March. So that event's probably going to be like the last week in March. We haven't announced the date yet, but we're giving away Grubhub gift cards and also a free application waiver, $75 waiver basically to apply to UCSF. So if you're interested, the presentation's not going to be the exact same. It might be a little similar. So, but we tailor it a lot more toward out of state. We're going to give comparisons of, rent and weather and just housing and have other students from Florida that'll be on the call to basically talk and share their experiences about coming from Florida to San Francisco for dental school. So if that's something you're interested in, please keep a lookout on our Instagram. We would love to see more of you at that event again.
All right, and with that, thanks so much for having us this evening. I hope you guys get some rest. I know it's kind of late, but we appreciate connecting and talking with you all.
Thank you very much, Brandy and Jenny, for coming this evening.
Good night.
Okay,
Take care, everyone.